Hello, welcome to my top 10 books of 2024. Technically, you will see at the 10th spot that there's a tie between two books, so it's kind of like the top 11, but those two books, I just couldn't choose between them. So I'm going to go in an order. I ordered them. We'll go from 10th place all the way to my favorite book of the year. And while they are ranked, I do think that this could change at any time. Sometimes I'm thinking about something and I think, ooh, that's a little higher, or I like that a little better. It just depends. I read a lot of really good books this year, though. At the number 10 slot, I have two books. The first one is The Unheard by Nikki French. This was a book I listened to on audio about a woman whose 3-year-old, her toddler, comes back from a weekend with her partner, and she is just off. She's crying a lot. She's wetting the bed. She keeps saying things. She's like cussing. She's using language that she should not know. And this mom is trying to figure out what happened to cause this change in my daughter. And her daughter is so young that she can't really tell her what's happening. And so it's this mom kind of in this panic state of she can't figure out what's wrong, but she knows something is off and she's trying to figure out what to do. Very good book. I was listening to it. I was finding excuses to keep listening. In the last 30%, I was working on a puzzle for a little bit and listening to it, and I ended up finishing the puzzle because I didn't want to stop listening to the book. In a similar vein, another thriller takes my number 10 spots tied with The Unheard, and that is The Witch Elm by Tana French. So Tana French and Nikki French take the number 10 spot. The Witch Elm is another thriller I did on audiobook, and you're going to see a vlog for this later, maybe much later in the year. It kind of depends how long it takes for me to finish it. It's one of the Taming the Shelves vlogs, and this one I listened to on audio. I really, really liked it. The narrator, Paul Nugent, did an amazing job with the Irish accents and making the characters sound so different so that even without the book telling me who was talking, I could keep track of it because of how the author did it. And this is a very slow-paced thriller. So while The Unheard felt like I couldn't put it down because it was mysterious and interesting and exciting, this one is more of a character study. We follow a guy named Toby who gets attacked in his apartment and is really seriously injured. He's missing some memories. He's very hurt. He has brain fog, he got hit in the head really hard, and he's just trying to recover from that. And the story goes on from there. There is a larger mystery, and it was so compelling. I was just awestruck at how Tana French wrote such an interesting character. Most of the book was just people having conversations, and I would be on the edge of my seat, this conversation is laden with so much intrigue that I can't wait to figure out what's going to happen. When's the other foot going to drop? What is happening within this family? Who do we trust? Who do we not trust? And I just really loved this, and I'm so excited that I have more Tana French to read because this book made me want to read all of her books immediately. So I would highly recommend this one on audio specifically, but this is a fabulous book. So both of those, The Unheard and The Witch Elm, take my number 10 spot. At number 9, we have a graphic novel. We have Ducks by Kate Beaton. This is a memoir graphic novel about Kate's time working on an oil rig and her hardships there and her wins. She was working in a very male-dominated field, lots of men, and along with that, a lot of harassment, a lot of mistreatment, a lot of her kind of having to stand up for herself and for other women, and the complications of working in a place that is so hard on you mentally. And while it was good money, there was a lot of discussion about, is it worth it to put myself through this for the good money? and the protections that aren't there for women. And this was just such a moving and emotional graphic novel. And Kate Beaton is one of my favorite graphic novel authors. She does the drawing and the writing, and her comics are so funny. Her Hark a Vagrant comics are so good. And this was a completely different tone, and it was still just as good. She's a great storyteller. I would highly recommend that one. Next, number 8, we have The Last House on Needless Street. This book was so different from what I was expecting it to be, but so good. This is a thriller that I think tends toward the more literary than the more action. It's very hard to sum up what it's about, but what I will say is what you think is happening when you are going into it is probably not what is actually happening. And I think that going into it, not knowing a lot about it is really great. I would say that it's very atmospheric, it's very thought-provoking, and it was a real page turner, even though it wasn't super action heavy. The mystery that was there was so compelling that I couldn't stop reading. I was actually very sick when I read this. I had some sort of awful flu, and I could actually keep my attention on this, which is very rare when I'm that sick, to be able to like focus on something and read it. And this one just really stuck with me and was a really great book. So I would highly recommend this one, and I would highly recommend, if you like mystery thrillers, just give this one a try without reading what it's about and see if you enjoy it. I think you'll find yourself pleasantly surprised. At number 7, I read a young adult classic called The Giver. This book is sort of a dystopian novel. It's the first in a series of 4. I actually read all 4 this year, and I would say that if you really love The Giver, I think the other 3 are interesting to give a try, but I don't know that they hit as strongly as The Giver does. So The Giver is about a society where people, when they, I think, become like 12 or 13, they're given a job. And the boy that we're following is given the job of the giver. And I can't tell you what the giver's job is because that's one of the main mysteries of the story, but it's all about this boy learning that maybe the society isn't what he thought it was. And I just think that Lois Lowry has such great, compelling writing. This is a short book, and it just packs so much. It's a very fully fleshed out world that even while there's a lot of questions about what is out there, we're still given so much. And this book had great emotional depths that really made me care for the characters, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it. I think this is definitely one that I would encourage people to check out if they haven't. Next is a book I listened to on audio, but I have the physical copy. That is Wool by Hugh Howey. This is a book I have wanted to read for years, and I'm finally now getting around to reading this series. And this book was so good. This is a dystopian novel, another dystopian. I do love a good dystopian, and I read 2 great ones this year. This one is about a society who live in these silos that go way deep into the ground. You literally like spiral down the staircases. And at the very beginning of a novel, we have the current deputy who is going out for cleaning. What that means is he's like cleaning off the cameras that view the outside world, which is like a barren wasteland. The air is not breathable. People cannot go outside. So he goes out there, he gets in this suit, goes out there, does the cleaning, walks off a little bit, and dies. And people watch this on the cameras, and we're following the successor to the deputy, who that is and how they sort of shake up society and find out things about the world that they didn't know. And this was just such a good book. One of the things that I loved most about it was how Hugh Howey can bounce around to different characters. We had a lot of points of view at different times. he would kind of use that point of view to tell us what he needed to tell us. And then sometimes we wouldn't go back into that point of view because we didn't need to know anymore. Sometimes characters would die. Sometimes we just weren't in their point of view anymore. And I never thought characters like overstayed their welcome in those points of view. If it wasn't a main point of view, we were in and out and we didn't need to go back and see what they were seeing. The main characters of this story were very compelling. The world building was top tier. I really think this is a great, rich, dystopian world, and I'm very excited to be finishing the trilogy. There are 2 more books in 2025. Next, we have a graphic novel series that I started this year. It's by one of my favorite manga writers who wrote the manga. This is one of the series that she wrote after Princess Jellyfish called Tokyo Terroreba Girls. And this is about 3 women who are in their 30s and they're single and they want to get married. I can't remember if it's get married or just have a boyfriend by the time the Olympics comes to Japan. And they are very messy. Messy as in romantically. They get themselves involved in these really complicated relationships, and I just found myself feeling for them so strongly. I was someone who didn't date until I was in my late 20s, so I totally understand that feeling of feeling like you're maybe too old, maybe a little bit past your prime. You feel like everyone else has settled down and you're just the leftovers getting the leftover guys. And it was even harder for them because in Japan the feeling is, and probably in the US as well, that men want younger women. So they're just having this struggle of like trying to be satisfied with their careers. They're not satisfied with their love life, and they're just trying to muddle through these messy things that are going on. And I just find this laugh out loud funny and also very emotional, and I just find myself really caring for these characters and rooting for them, and then sometimes going, oh my gosh, please stop what you're doing. This is the worst idea ever. So I just think they're so realistic. You can definitely relate to them, I think. And they're just really great characters, and I would just follow them forever. I actually think this is a relatively short series, like maybe only 9 manga or so. So it's not that long if you want to check it out. And I'm hoping to be continuing that in 2025 as well. Next, we have the book. This is at the number 4 spot, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This book, I felt like I was going to be disappointed because everyone had been reading it and raving about it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like it as much as everyone says they love it. And I fell in love with this book. I adored every minute of it. This book is about a guy and a girl who meet, I think, in college or shortly after. They're both very much into video games and video game design, and it follows them in their life and their relationships as they move in and out of each other's life. It talks about them building games together, and I loved how the games kind of talked about their feelings in a way that they never could. I am big into video games myself, and so I loved kind of geeking out about story design in games. I loved the sections where we actually got to learn about the games that the characters had made, and I wanted to play them. Gabrielle Zevin wrote them so well. I felt like I could play them like they were real. It felt like she was talking about something that was real. So I just loved that about it. And I think if you haven't read this and you like video games, I would highly recommend checking it out. It was very emotional and very compelling to read, and I just loved every second of it. number 2 spot, this one was a big surprise for me. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I had always been a little curious about this book, but I had sort of written it off as something I wasn't going to read until one day it was at my library and I sort of just picked it up because I was in a get books kind of mood, and so I was like, sure, why not? And I recognize it, let's take it home. And it sat on my shelves and I ended up picking it up and I absolutely loved it. This is about a girl who makes a deal with the devil to live forever. But there is a downside to it. No one will ever remember her. So as soon as someone kind of closes the door and then opens it again, they don't remember who she is. If they go in the other room, come back out, they don't remember her. If they go to sleep and wake up, they don't remember her. And this is about her sort of living this life of obscurity. She's gonna live forever. She is immortal. So she's just living years after years after years with no one remembering her. She doesn't have like a home. Like, you can't get an apartment because as soon as the landlord leaves your view, he doesn't remember you. So it's not like she can get an apartment. She's trying to figure out how to get by. And then one day there's a guy who remembers her. When she leaves, he remembers her. And it's about their story and this deal that she has made with this devil and how the three of them interact. And I was sobbing at the end of this book. I did not expect to feel so strongly as I did. And the ending was perfection. It ended exactly how I think it needed to. And I was so annoyed and angry and also fully satisfied by the ending all at the same time. And I know V. Schwab sometimes gets a really bad rap for some of her books, but I definitely think if you think the premise sounds interesting at all, maybe give it a try. I would not say that this is mainly a love story. Romance is a key point in this, but really we're following Addie and this devil as they sort of duke it out. He wants her to give up her soul to him, so he's trying to make her life as miserable as possible, hence the curse, and she's too stubborn to give in, and she's, fighting him tooth and nail to try to make a life for herself. And it's really this battle between them, and then there is a romance as well, which adds a really interesting twist to it. Highly, highly recommend you check it out. Give it a try. Maybe it's not for you, but I thought I wasn't going to like it, and I loved it. My top slot for 2024, my top books. I'm cheating a little bit, and I'm adding a series. It'll probably come as no surprise that my favorite is the Stormlight Archive. I'm going to put these down because they're very heavy, and I'll hold up the one I'm working on right now. I'm 360 pages into Wind and Truth, but I have read the entirety of the Stormlight Archive in 2024. I won't be finishing this one in 2024. I don't think. We only have like 4 days, and I'm not reading like 300 pages a day. So this will be probably half read by the end of December. I love the Stormlight Archive. This is the final book, some of the final books in the Cosmere that I need to read. After this one, the only ones I need to read are White Sands and then The Sunlit Man. So I had always kind of saved Stormlight for last because I knew it wasn't finished. So I was like, I'll read everything else that's finished and then I'll get to this at the end. And this was the year I wanted to read Rhythm of War in time to get to Wind and Truth, which I did. And I have loved getting to know all the characters and the world of Roshar. I'm currently filming a spoiler vlog for Wind and Truth with all my thoughts. And I just love what Sanderson is doing with writing the Cosmere. I think it's something so special that we don't get in every fantasy series, because the story of Wind and Truth is not just the story of Stormlight. It's the story of all these other things that are happening. And it's just so cool because it makes me love the story even more because it's not just one story. It's all these stories that I've been reading for like 10 years coming together and interacting in ways that I don't even understand yet, but I'm just so excited for. And each new installment of the Cosmere, I feel like I'm more excited about what might happen in the future and what more secrets we're going to find. And I just think that the Stormlight has been such a special like end to my like catch up of reading all the Cosmere books. And I'm so excited after I read this and The Sunlit Man because I can then delve into spoilers and I don't have to worry about them anymore because I've been dodging them for 10 years. So I'm just so excited to be fully immersed in this universe of books, and Stormlight and its characters are just so great. I feel so strongly for so many of these characters, and I want them to do cool things. I want them to save the world. I want them to come to a happy end where they can just live their lives and be happy. And I also think that the conflicts that Sanderson's writing about in here are very interesting. And the world itself, like the ecology and the landscape, is so cool. And it's just different from a lot of things that I've read. And I think this is a very epic in scope and length series. And I'm just really excited about kind of capping off the first era. And I will be waiting for about 7 years for the next one. It'll be hard to wait, but it'll be nice to be able to delve into some other things on my shelves. But this was my favorite reading experience for 2024, was finally getting into this planet of Roshar and seeing what it was all about and just really, really enjoying it. Those are my top 10 books of 2024. I'm so excited for all the reading I'm going to be doing in 2025. Let me know down below what your favorite book of 2024 was. I'm always looking for great recommendations. And if you think any of these books sound good to you that I loved in 2024, give them a try and let me know what you think about them. I'm always curious to see how my opinions compare with other people's. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the new year. Bye.